What's up, everyone? Aaron Schatz here, Editor-in-Chief of ASE Publishing, and today we've got a review for you. This time it's the FLIR 1 second generation thermal imaging camera specifically for Android. This is review ID 57639. You can check out this and all our reviews by going to www.aselabs.com. I'll make it easier for you though. I'm going to level with you right now. There's a subscribe button right down here. You're probably watching this on YouTube right now. Maybe you're watching this on ASE Labs. Either way, hit the subscribe button right on YouTube. You'll be informed of all the content as we post. That's all we post these days. So if you just subscribe to our YouTube channel, you're good to go. Let's get into this. If you haven't seen the unboxing, I'm not going to put it anywhere because I'm just going to show you what's in the box. So you get the camera itself, micro USB, a little holder for the camera. Let's see what else is in the box. You get a lanyard, micro USB charging cable, these bumpers that attach to the top here, which I'm assuming are actually to give it a little bit of snugness if your phone basically has a charging port that makes this stick out too much. So these would probably make it a little bit more snug so it's not moving around too much, but I don't know, I didn't have to use them. And then you're given these two micro USB adapters. Basically, if you have a phone that, show you this real quick. So if you have a phone that is, the USB port is facing the wrong way, they give you things that'll actually allow you to face it the correct way, and then that's basically it. That's what they do. Now you don't have to see the unboxing. Here's the interesting part that I actually found out. Basically, even though this is a micro USB connection, I was really under the assumption that I could just put an adapter on here and just use my Nexus 5X. That's not the case. And I reached out to actually find out if this is actually supported on any Android device, and I actually haven't heard back, and I need to publish this review, so there you go. If I do find out, I'll post it in the comments or in the actual text portion of the review, but my assumption is that this only works on a certain set of specific devices. Thankfully, I actually probably had one of those devices. I have an old Galaxy S4 that has a micro USB connection, and it works fine from there. So my assumption is that they tested it on popular smartphones of the time of this. Remember, this is a second generation, which is actually an older product now, and the Galaxy series is probably ones that they actually made sure it worked on. So if you have a smartphone, you really need to check on their documentation to see what's supported and what's not supported, because this isn't supported on every Android device. So just make sure that if you want to purchase this, you make sure that it's compatible with your device. Just check their website. Let's take a look at the actual camera itself. So there are two actual camera holes right here. Basically, one is a thermal camera, so great, you have a thermal camera because that's what you're buying. The second one is actually a VGA regular visible light camera. And now you may be thinking to yourself, why the hell would you put a visible camera on there too? Actually, it's really interesting what FLIR does in their application. Basically, if you think of it this way, if you have a thermal image and there's no context, you have no idea. Sometimes you have no idea what you're looking at. So if you're looking at a picture and it's all thermal imaged, and then you're like, well, I can't see any of the actual like landmarks in the image. Whereas they actually composite the image with the visible light spectrum to actually show you edges, and it's really, really cool. I'll show you that in a little bit when I show you the application. But that's why they have two cameras. So one's a visible light camera and one's an infrared camera. And they composite the image, and you can actually show the differences between them. So like, for instance, you could, in their again, I'll show you all this in their application, but you can actually take a composite image, and then in their application, you can actually swipe down, and you can actually see the actual visible light image that the infrared is actually composited with. So it's pretty cool. Let's turn this around here. You have the single button on here. So this has an internal battery on it, and the battery lasts, I've used it, and it's probably going to give you a little bit more than an hour, maybe two, depending on how much movement you're doing and how much actually it's using. The battery's actually kind of small in here, and even though this can take the power from the phone, it can take it, like theoretically, USB on the go and such allows power to be drawn from the phone. It doesn't. So there's an internal battery in here that you have to charge. It wasn't charged out of the box. So for me to actually, I took this out of the box, plugged it into a phone, tried to turn it on, wasn't happening. So you have to make sure that you actually charge this when you actually purchase it. So if you purchase this, remember to fully charge this before you start using it. The other thing that you're going to need to do is actually to download the actual support application for this. FLIR actually provides a FLIR 1 application for use with the FLIR 1 second generation thermal imaging camera. Pretty obvious, right? The interesting thing again is that they also provide an SDK, so if you wanted to build your own applications, you can. And there are a few other applications that support this specific hardware. We're not going to go into that for the review, but just know that if you want to use this hardware for something interesting and you want to build something yourself, that's a possibility. You can definitely do that. The actual only button on here is the power button, and literally you power it on and power it off. There's no other thing than that. This is a carrying case for this. So you're not going to be leaving this in your phone you're not going to leave this plugged into your phone the entire time. So you would basically just put this in the case, and now it's not coming out of this case, trust me. And this lanyard that they actually give you right here hooks into this little part right here, so if you want to hold it around your neck, you could. That's why they give you the lanyard, and that's why they give you the little case. And even though this isn't like, you know, a locked type of case, like it just sits in there, this thing is not coming out of here. It's in there. To actually get it out, you got to pull it out and then pull it up. It's pretty snug in there. I wouldn't worry about it falling out of the little hard case. It's actually a soft case, but it's harder rubber than it is. It protects it really well. You'll also want to keep it in this case to keep the lenses clean. This is in general with any camera. The lens getting dirty sucks. Cleaning lenses, terrible. You should always use a anti-static microfiber cloth that you don't use for anything else. Like if you're cleaning your glasses with microfiber, don't use the same one for a camera lens because you can end up scratching it. Because the stuff that comes off of these lenses here on my glasses is going to be different than the stuff that's going to be on a lens of a camera. And this stuff is pretty abrasive. All the dust and stuff is very abrasive. You want something that's going to basically just take the dust off. Not necessarily, you're not wiping it, you're basically trying to pull it away from the lens. So the easier you can keep your lens clean, the better. One other thing to note is the actual resolution of the cameras on the FLIR 1 second generation. So basically, the visible light camera is VGA, 640 by 480, and you're like, well, that really sucks. Think of it this way. You're going to get enough of a picture to actually understand where the thermal stuff is coming from in the picture. And the thermal camera is even lower resolution. It's 160 by 120. Now you're really thinking like, oh my god, this isn't going to show anything. I'm here to prove you wrong, and we're going to show you that very quickly, like right now. It's time to show you how this thing works in the application. So let's give this a shot. You can see the screen. I'm going to impose it on this side right here. So you see that right now. So this is a slightly older phone, so don't worry about that. The interface is not like Android Nougat or anything. Don't worry about it. You can't see anything. So we're going to open the FLIR 1 application, and you can see that it's basically telling me, okay, please attach your FLIR 1 and turn it on. So let's do that. Once you do this the first time, it'll actually ask you, like, do you want to start this application all the time when you actually plug this in? And then you could just do that, and it works. So, like, I don't actually have to do this. I don't have to turn the application on first. I can plug this in, turn it on, and it's good to go. So I plugged it in. Now you have to turn it on. So I'm going to leave it. I'm going to leave it in portrait orientation so it doesn't get all messed up when I'm recording this video. So now it's on. You can see that the little orange light is turning on right now. So there you go. And now that it's been all detected, it is going to show you some stuff right here. So you could see that this is what I see when I'm looking at you guys and gals right now. That's the camera, and that's a light. And if I show you over to here, that's my computer. That's a space heater, obviously. That's a router. And I'll show you, I'll put the actual, so the FLIR application, okay, it's a thermal imaging camera. And like I said, it shows you a bunch of information that, you know, even though the resolution is very small for the actual thermal part. Oh, okay, here's the interesting part. I don't know why I keep saying interesting, but it's interesting. So every time you see a little freeze like that in the screen, that was not a video, that was actually the application. That's the actual FLIR 1 calibrating itself. There's an auto calibration, so every once in a while you hear a little click and then the screen just freezes a little bit. That's the actual camera calibrating itself. So, you know, it's an IR sensor basically. So if you ever use those infrared sensors that you use for like cooking or to read surface temperatures and stuff, this is a similar technology, not exactly the same. So it has to deal with emissivity and all this stuff, so calibration is very important. Now let me show you just around here. Again, And you can see that that's a hot spot right there. That's actually a router. Look at that. It's over 100 degrees on that router. That's the monitor that I'm using. Not too warm, 93 degrees. And there's another calibration. The computer that I got running right here, it's not that hot, but you can see that. I turned this off so it's slowly cooling down, but you can see that it's still warm. And my dog, Coco. Look at her, she's so cute. And that's basically, this is IR. This is what IR does. And you could, this is the interesting part now I want to show you. You could see that, you could see edges and stuff on this image. So if I actually turned, so let's go into the settings real quick now. And here we go. So this, okay, there's a few different icons on there. One of them, a couple of them are obvious. This one turns the actual little flashlight on. Great, understandable. This one is the front-facing. It's like, how do I explain this? Oops. It's the it rotates the image. I don't even know why I had a brain for it. Basically, it rotates the image. So like if I was in landscape mode, if I was holding it landscape mode, this would flip the image 180 degrees. So if you were holding it and the thing was upside down, you could turn that on and it would right side up it again. Now this is a timer. So basically, if you want to snap a photo, 3 seconds long or 10 seconds long or instant, which is probably what you're going to use for this. Okay, so this little thing that looks like a macro is not. So if I'm showing you this, and if you're noticing that the IR isn't really lining up with the actual object, that's what this slider does. So if you can see what's happening, you see that the IR is actually moving away. I find that it's good as is on the rightmost part. So I wouldn't change that. It's fine, and just leave it alone. Let it do it. Let it do it automatically. Now this little button up top, the one that looks like a scale across instead of vertical. The vertical ones is the actual advanced settings. So we're going to go into that in a little bit. But this one, if I turn that off right now, I have locked whatever's in the frame, the temperature's in the frame. So normally, what happens is every time, so I'll turn this off again, I'll show you what happens. So let me explain this real quick. So basically, you can see in the frame that there's a hot spot in the frame, and everything else is blue. But if I go down to like a table, for instance, you see that the colors all change now based on the relative temperature in the actual frame itself. So based on whatever's in the frame, the colors are going to basically take that range and then use the range. And again, not again, but first time I've ever shown you this, if you wanted to change the color palette, you can definitely do that. So for instance, in my house, really, really good stuff that I'm using this camera for is to figure out the cold spots in the house, where things are basically crap, and I have to re-insulate them a lot. So if I show you things like an outlet, for instance, or the sides of a wall, you can see that the cold spots are actually there, and it's a calibration happening right now. You can see that the window is cold. You can see there's a cold spot right there. And if I go over to another outlet, or better yet, on the floor right here, you can see that there's cold spots all on the floor running down. So that just means that I need to put insulation a little bit better in the walls there. But if you can use whatever color scheme that you want. I like the rainbow one, whatever floats your boat. But again, whatever's in the frame is whatever the relative temperature scale is going to be. Let's say you don't want that to happen. Let's just say you want this to be the scale. Whatever's in this frame right now, you want it to be the scale. That's what this does. So once you turn that off and you move it around, that's going to keep the same temperature scale regardless of whatever's in the frame. So if I come over here, you notice there's no reds in the frame now because the reds was actually the color temperatures of the, not the color temperature, the temperature of the actual light that I was showing you. So since that temperature no longer exists in the frame, you're not going to see any reds. Where if I turn that off, it would always show you the rainbow colors based on whatever relative scale is in the frame. So I like that. So for instance, if I'm looking at something and I want to see really cold spots, I would try to find something that only shows the colder areas so I can see the coldness rather than the hotness. Because I really don't want to look in another part and have all the colors just go wrong because the relative scale is different because there might have been something hot in the frame versus something there's no crazy hotspots in there. So that's a useful feature as well. The last thing I'm going to show you is the advanced settings here. So it's just a regular settings panel. So I recommend leaving all of this stuff normal, whatever it is out of the box, except the temperature unit. If you like Celsius, you can do that. It came defaulted to Celsius. I like Fahrenheit because I'm an American. There you go. If you wanted to do image rotation, you can do that. There's no reason. Just leave everything there. Leave the emissivity. You don't have to worry about that. Unless you're getting wrong temperatures, or like, for instance, if you're, okay, so if you're facing a mirror, this is going to read your temperature. So whatever's in, it's going to bounce off. It's not, this is infrared. It's hard for me to explain, but you should read some papers on how infrared works. It's not necessarily, you're not directly reading a temperature. You're reading an emissivity of the temperature. So it's not a direct temperature. It's what the object is emitting in infrared light. So that's the interesting part. So again, this is beyond the scope of this review, but if you're interested, go read some papers. It's interesting. Save location. Obviously, it'll save the GPS location just like your phone generally does. And the automatic calibration allows that for it to repeatedly, once in a while, calibrate the sensor so it can get an accurate reading. Now, if you wanted to, you can actually manually calibrate. If you turn that off, this little button up here in the top right, that's actually calibrating it manually. So you can see like it changed a little bit. But again, I would leave the camera to do whatever it's going to do. You can see a battery indicator. This battery indicator is for the actual FLIR 1 camera. And there you go. By the way, the screen on time of this device is waning really, really much in terms of battery life on this. So remember that the screen is also burning battery life on the phone too. So the more you use it, the less time you're going to have. Now, the camera doesn't drain the actual phone battery, but again, screen's on, that's a drain. This also has a few different modes. So if you go into here, you can see that it can do a panorama, and I'll show you a panorama right now. It's not, to me, it's a useless thing unless you actually lock the temperature scale. Otherwise, I think it's still useless. The camera's not that high resolution. It's not really that great. Video is cool. So if you want to take a video, I also suggest to actually lock the scale. But I'm going to show you a video right now on this side right here. No, in the entire frame. That basically just shows you, or shows me walking around looking for cold spots in the house. So that's that's an interesting use case. I mean, that's really why I wanted this thing to test, because I wanted to see all the cold spots in the house. But that's basically the application in a nutshell. And one last thing that I forgot to mention, that this little button up top here, it actually turns off and on the temperature reading in the center of the frame. So you can see that now I can actually see the temperature, or if I don't want that in the actual picture, I do that. Taking a photo, taking a video, simple, you just touch the little photo icon down there, and you can see all the photos right here. One thing that the FLIR 1 application does that's really cool is because it has a visible image, you can actually swipe down and see the visible image. And yes, that's an inversion table, and they rock. So on the video, I'll show you this. Never mind, I won't show you that. I'll show you the video. I already showed you the video, so I'm not going to bother with that. Video doesn't do that. Only images do that. But the panoramas do. See that? So you can actually swipe down and see that. Only images do that. Let's show you this. So like you can see in these cold spots in my house, and you can see that's the front door, that's the garage door, and that's the window over there. So that's where the cold spots are. Pretty cool stuff. Think about this. Are you going to probably run out and buy this now? Maybe. Let's talk about the use cases. My use case is I really wanted something like this. I needed to know where the cold spots in my house were. Something like this allows that to happen. It also allows me to take pictures outside. There's a lot of cool stuff you can do with this. Is it something that everyone's going to need, and I'm going to tell you to run out and buy now? No. You're going to, if you need an IR camera, this is great. Works with your smartphone. I mean, again, you need to check the compatibility on their website, and this is compatible, but your phone may not be, so please do check the website. Normally, if your phone supports USB on the go, you should be good to go, and your phone has a micro USB port, you should be good to go. Again, they are making a third generation model that supports USB Type-C, which pretty much means all the newer phones will probably work out of the box. Again, this has a specific market segment that it's targeting. It's $215 right now. I think it's a great price. FLIR makes some really damn cool products, damn cool technology, and they're the best in the business. The U.S. government uses them for all the thermal imaging, well, most of the thermal imaging stuff. So there you go. Proven technology right there. Am I going to tell you to run out and buy this because it's cool? Hell yeah! You should definitely buy it, but it's because it's cool. But if you don't need thermal imaging, there's no reason to buy it. The FLIR 1 second generation for Android retails for about $215 right now. You can check out links in the description below. Purchases on Amazon right now. I also want to say that the FLIR 1 application is actually pretty good, gets the job done. I don't see any, there was no crashing, there was no quirkiness and stuff. It looks like it was well built for the actual use case. A lot of times when you see hardware manufacturers, they make a great piece of hardware and the software just doesn't cut it. And the FLIR 1 application works well, gets the job done, and it's something that is nice to see, that a company puts their time into actually developing applications that required to actually use their hardware. So good job, FLIR. And another thing that I want to say is, when you see hardware companies make applications for iOS and Android, generally they focus so much on iOS that the Android experience sucks. That's not the case with the FLIR 1 for Android. I've read reviews in the app, in the Google Play Store, that, oh, it's been crashing and stuff. I haven't noticed any of that. I've noticed freezing, but that's known when the actual calibration happens, for the automatic calibration. So otherwise, this application works great. Again, gets the job done, and FLIR did a good job on actually making the application work well on Android. For ASE Labs and ASE Publishing, I'm Aaron Chaston. Thank you for watching. Oh my God, I don't even know why I keep saying this right now, but you know what? I'm going to say it at the end of every single review I do. All the time, there's a subscribe button right down here. And you know what you should do? You should hit it. You'll be informed of all the unboxings, all the reviews we do, all the 1-minute reviews we do that I still have to do for this one. And you'll be informed. You know what also we love? We love to hear from you. So please leave us some comments, feedback. Always, always really love to hear your feedback. Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll definitely see you in the next one.